Deepika Padukone cannot be seen in the same outfit for the second time in public, ever. Not the same footwear, not the same jewelry, not the same clothes. Imagine her spend. To be present, she has to be seen in the public. She has to be seen coming out of her fancy car and wearing the most expensive clothes. Right? So you have to know how risky your income is. Right? Whether you're a doctor, if you're a doctor, what do you think? How will you view this? No retirement, no? Steady source of income as long as you yourself are fit and fine. So nice long income stream. And further funding. If you decide to set up a hospital, that's your strategic choice. You can decide to be working and earn that steady income, or you can decide that, look, there is a practice which I can set up in which I will earn a steady income for which I'm going to make this investment. Is that right? So you need to have a sense of how your income is behaving. For most of us who are salaried, what do you think? Steady and growing income, lasting income, doesn't require spending. Women here who have quit their job after the child and not gone back. Men here who stopped acquiring new skills, on post-graduation done over, no more studies. Yeah? So, protecting the income is the first strategic decision, and we need to be sure how long. And then, as I will show you in the worksheet, quitting early sounds very romantic. I hear a lot of people saying, I want to retire in 40 years. What they forget is they have to live on that income for the next 40 years. I've had a set of friends who quit at the peak of their career, saying, Uma, I have taken care of everything, I have taken care of planning, I have enough money, I have quit. They've all come back to work less than 5 years. Why? Inflation. Right? Inflation is a regular, steady hit on your income. So you need to see how your income looks like. And if you're looking at insurance, you're only looking at income replacement, right? So, should we buy insurance? Is there a requirement for insurance? Everyone should have insurance. You have to qualify that statement. You know, you will have a shield and then a sword, right? If you have to fight. So insurance is like your shield. Which means that if something were to, if you have not built enough assets, you must see insurance as the balance between income and assets. See, somebody who's young, who has just started earning, what will happen? What is the asset you will have? Nothing. But you will have a long, steady stream of income running into the next 30 years or 35 years. Suppose you're middle-aged, what is it that will happen? How much insurance would you need? A good part of the requirement for your family, if something were to happen to you, will come from the assets you have already built. Is that right? Only a part of it will come from insurance. So what is it that should happen actually? Your insurance requirement, it's like your EMI. Your insurance requirement is very high when you start earning. It starts dropping as you earn and build assets. Is that right? Because your family can always use the assets to be able to generate the income that they want, and that insurance requirement will keep dropping as you build assets. So you have to view your insurance in terms of how much assets you have and what kind of protection you are trying to buy. You will, however, need coverage for temporary and partial impairment because it's a big risk to your incomes. Is that right? So I'm not going to spend too much time on insurance itself. Alright. So when you're looking at your income, these are the 4 things you want to focus on. Investing is not everything. Investing is one part. Correct? Do you want to make an investment to make your income look bigger? Is that an objective? How many years? When will that happen? That will happen when you're closer and closer to retirement, or you feel that the kind of skills that you have and your ability to enhance those skills and earn a higher income, alright? Or your willingness to take a risk and get into, let's say, becoming an entrepreneur, for example, are lower, and therefore you're leaning on your investments. One of the biggest reasons why we want to build assets is this, that at some point I may be not motivated to do any more work, or I might decide that this is enough, or I might get tired, or I might be too demotivated at work. So I want to be able to have an investment such that my income is enhanced or there is a additional. So instead of buying that 4-bedroom flat at the outskirts, if you bought a few corner shops which can later become ATMs, you will earn a lot of rental income. That's strategic investment in real estate. Because your idea is that that investment will have to generate income. Or when you build a house, you build it in such a way that a portion of the house can be rented once the children have gone out, moved out. Then you're making a strategic decision because from your investment, you're trying to generate some incomes on the side. Is that right? So your basic is from your insurance, as you move along, you will find that you will build assets to be able to create alternate incomes for yourself, and some amount of time and energy will be spent on planning for retirement. So these are all decisions you will take about your incomes at all times. Yeah? You need to decide where you are. I'll show you the worksheet and it might make more sense. Now to mandatory. So there is an income stream that's coming in. I'm asking you to think in terms of your personal balance sheet. There's an income stream that's coming in. Every month, every year, there is money coming into your household balance sheet. It's up to you to use that to keep building assets, right? And you will keep building that assets based on, do I need these sometime later when I retire? Do I need these to make my income higher? Do I need these to replace me? Or do I don't have any immediate needs, let them all become assets because I want to build some big business sometime later and draw upon it. It depends on what you want to do with your assets, as I was saying. Whereas expense, how do you think expenses behave? There are two heads. These are like fixed costs and variable costs. Your expense is like looking at your P&L account, right? Your assets and liabilities when you're looking at a balance sheet. Expense is like looking at your P&L account, which means income is coming in unless I'm living with my parents and not bearing any of the expenses. I will save the entire amount of the salary or I can spend the entire amount of my salary. Otherwise, there are two charges on my income. What are they? Mandatory, discretionary. What are these mandatory expenses? Expenses you have to incur. Rent, taxes, EMI, food, grocery bills, fees. Right? So, how do you think these expenses will behave? Increase with inflation. Is that right? They will keep increasing with inflation, which is why I said your income has to be at a rate higher than inflation, otherwise you will automatically lose value because your expenses will keep going. Now, discretionary. What are discretionary expenses? Vacation, entertainment, clothes, renovation of the house, car, all of this. How do you think they should behave? How they will behave? They'll also go up with inflation. So somebody was asking about top tips, efficient management, right? If you don't cap the discretionary expense as a percentage of your salary, they will go out of hand. They will all become mandatory, right? So if you're making a vacation budget, always make it as a percentage of your total annual income. Oh, we are a household which is making 60 lakhs a year. We can spend 10% of this money on a good annual vacation. Let's plan a vacation for 6 lakhs. Right? Then you will have some control, right? So just like how you have fixed expenses and variable expenses, you have these two components and these two components behave differently, and what matters is whether you're left with a surplus every month or not. So first sign of a healthy household balance sheet is some surplus, right? Which is available for what? What do you think we want to do with the surplus? Not all surpluses should lead to assets. There are three things that we do with our money. Okay? And how we will do asset allocation? Somebody was asking me for asset allocation. It depends on these three things. What do you do with money? What do you think you will do with money? People have these very exotic notions. Money should be preserved, money should be grown, money should be saved. How do we actually use money? What do you do with the money on an everyday basis? What do you do typically? A good part of the money management is about liquidity. We spend 80% of our time managing liquidity. Has this bill been paid? Has this been done? Has this money come in? Has this gone out? These are decisions. There is a wedding in the family we have to attend. This travel has to be done, right? There are a series of charges on money that come in. How much energy we spend on liquidity management will depend on what? How adequate, right? more and more comfortable with large balances in your savings bank account. Liquidity is not a big deal. You don't have to check the balance before you write a check, right? But for those who are not generating surpluses, you will find that a lot of your time goes towards managing liquidity, which is why we talk about emergency funding and other things, which is what? So what does liquidity management mean? Having enough money to pay off something that is required to be paid, even if it is unexpected. Is that right? A good amount of our money management skills will have to go towards ensuring that liquidity is there, because why? If you don't have liquid cash, that is a bigger embarrassment, right, in the society than anything else. If you go out to eat and which is why the credit card. We routinely use debt for managing liquidity because it will be embarrassing, right, to not have that amount of money. But we can end up, of course, percentages and all will come to later. So liquidity, a lot of money is used, a lot of the time money management is about managing liquidity. Second part is funding. What is this funding now? What we just discussed. A good part of the money decision. Let's assume that you have 3 lakhs of rupees coming into your account every month, right? Your routine expenses are only 50 to 60,000 rupees. You can easily do it. You spend very little time on liquidity. What do you do with the remaining money? It lies in the savings bank account. Because you're still looking for that best investment plan, in which you have to put. You're considering one after another. So what is your requirement? Funding. Where is your money lying? Liquidity. The money is lying as if it is required for a liquid need, right? But whereas you should actually be doing a asset allocation. You should actually be funding. Funding means funding of assets, building of assets, your investments and other assets. What is the third thing that you can do? Give. Most of us give it to our own children, correct? That's also give only. Goes from one balance sheet to another, right? All these 3 decisions have to be thought out. So how many of you here can tell me what percentage of your assets today are in these 3 categories? And tell me why. Your money has to be in these 3 categories, correct? Broadly, can you tell me some numbers? Percentage? I don't want the numbers. Yes, sir. What percentage of your money is there?
70, 20 and 10.
Anybody wanting any money, sir has lot of money. So we can borrow from him. Correct? So if you keep money liquid, you will earn a return which is very low. Alright? So we all overestimate personal balance sheet. It will be very close to what sir is saying, because neither do they make their own money decision, nor do they allow somebody else to make it. They don't have time. And money is just lying in the savings bank account, right? So you need to be able to say what percentage of the money is going where and be able to make that decision, right? Alright.
What should be the ideal ratio of this?
What do you think?
To me, anything liquidity should be on the lower side.
Not more than 10%, sir.
Not more than 10%.
Not more than 10%, sir. Because you have a credit card with free 45-day debt. You should use it. 45 days. You don't have to worry. Within 45 days, you will have a salary coming in. 30 days, the salary comes. So if you have an expense which is higher than your income, that's the debt problem. That's another crisis. It's a different crisis. But routinely, you should not have more than 10% of your income lying in the savings bank account. Criminal. You need to see what is the amount that is lying there unutilized. So you must have a default investment plan. You must say that in this year, I am going to invest in these 5 funds. These are my choices. I am investing in these 5 funds because these 3 funds are for this, asset house that I am going to buy, or this college fees which I am going to pay. And these 2 funds are for, my retirement or whatever. Whatever are your goals, right? We are not going to get into goals. The money should just go in there because you have a funding requirement. You have a requirement in the future. So when you have a funding requirement, why is the money liquid? It should move. Yeah.
Are we considering FDs also as liquid?
See, FDs are assets because they are used for their role in a sense. Is that right? But FD is a very nice way of ensuring that you have quick liquidity on hand if there is a requirement. Right? A bank for any holding period more than 3 years, FD is not the choice. If you see the interest rate, FD rates will just flatten in your bank after 3 years. Bank doesn't require money more than that. The most popular FD is the 1-year FD. So if you have a 1-year FD or a 2-year FD or a 3-year FD, you can keep borrowing against it if there is a requirement. You can have a pre-sanctioned personal loan requirement, right? And you can keep that money. Because you think you might have a liquidity requirement and you might want to draw upon it. The more and more you allocate towards liquid assets, the more and more you compromise on your post-tax returns. You have to get real about it, which is why I use the word strategic. So these decisions are tough to make. But you have to make those decisions. Yeah.
When you say giving, like investing in the name of your kids, is it called giving?
But investing in the name of the?
Kids like PPF.
No, when you say giving, it means what are you going to do with PPF? When I say giving, it means are you going to use it? Or are you going to leave it behind for your child? Today when I look at the personal balance sheets of 50-year-olds, sir, I'm not joking. 80% of the portfolio is for giving to the children. There is no other way to spoil the next generation.
You build assets for somebody else.
You're building it for somebody else. So, there was a time when we are not really talking of the farmer who's pledging his land and sending the child to the city. I don't know, is there anybody here like that? No. We are not talking about those extreme cases where, you are stretching yourself to provide a better life to the child, right? You feel that your child should get out of the cycle of risky incomes. Why is the father doing that? The profession is so high that he would want the child to take an alternate profession for which he is willing to mortgage the land and send the child, correct? I don't know, we all love martyrdom. All of us want to, I don't want anything for myself, everything for my child, correct? I will do everything. Ask them to take an education loan and pay it, for God's sake. Don't keep funding everything, but we are in that indulgent parenting cycle, sir. One set of youngsters will become wayward and then things will become, one set of parents will suffer in retirement and then the cycle will turn. Yeah? But when I say giving, it is about consciously saying what part of your wealth you are going to use in your lifetime. That's what I say. So buying too many houses is a clear indication that you don't intend using. Now if I look at a portfolio, I look at a 10 crore portfolio in which 7 crores is in property. So what is the decision, strategic decision this man has taken? 70% of his wealth in this lifetime is for giving. He is not going to enjoy it, he is not going to sell that house, he is going to give it away to his children. You will believe that instead of the money lying here, real estate may nothing happens. The only problem is that tomorrow if you really think you want to do something nice for the wife, maybe buy her a diamond necklace, you can't sell one bathroom and do half a bedroom. So that is the problem. And your friends your wife herself will not approve if you sell the house and buy her jewelry, correct? Selling the house never happens. So let's not fool ourselves, So that is where the question is.
But you get some kind of rental income there.
2%. How much is rental yield? 2%, 3%? Ask the people in Bangalore who have bought on the outskirts of electronic cities, sir. They will tell you what is the rental yield. Getting a tenant is a big deal. The yield is still far away. So nothing you will get. You will get no income. So that's what I'm saying. So why are you buying that asset? Are you buying it for income? No rent is coming. Are you buying it for appreciation? You're not going to sell. So what are you going to do? You're going to leave it behind for the child. Right? Correct? Right? That is the thing. No penny-wise, pound foolishly say. So the thing is that when we say, that's why I was saying expense, the mandatory expense which I was talking to you about, we have a big problem with charges on our income. Correct? So we see tax as a big charge on our income. And in a country where faith on the government and people who govern is low, willingness to pay taxes is also low. Correct? You think that the people take our hard-earned money as taxes and go on a world tour to find out how to fix the traffic in Bangalore. Correct? So we are very suspicious about how our money is likely to be used. So we are very unwilling taxpayers. Is that right? So which is why when the government says give up your LPG subsidy, which is what it should be. Correct? Bharat Petroleum released the list of people who are the largest users of cylinders. Do you know whose name was on the top?
Naveen Jindal.
Naveen Jindal, 369 cylinders. Does he need a subsidy? So, The question is, misdirected subsidy is a point, but the problem really is when we say we want to save tax, the question is not of this tax that has been saved. The question is of where is that income going